Good day, listeners. You've tuned in to More Than a Funeral, Voices of the Red River Valley, powered by Corsmo Funeral and Cremation Service right here in Moorhead, Minnesota. My name is Tom, and I'm going to be your host today. And whether you are listening on your computer, maybe your phone, car, any other kind of device, and possibly even your tractor or combine, we welcome you here to today's episode. We all know there are so many funeral-related podcasts of interest dealing with so many various issues, but our focus is going to be on the personal aspect of relationships and the multitude of interesting people and organizations that like to call the Red River Valley their home. And on occasion, we might push the edge a little bit, discuss some of those controversial issues. We all know what we're talking about. Red Jell-O. Is it appropriate to serve at church potlucks anymore, or is it a taboo subject? And there's so many other things such as hot dish, casserole. What's the difference between the two anyway? So, we invite you to sit back for a few minutes, grab yourself a blistering hot cup of Lutheran Church coffee, and enjoy the conversation. We are glad you stopped by to listen. And welcome back to More Than a Funeral, Voices of the Red River Valley. And again, I'm Tom Pence. I'm your host. I'm still your host. I will always be your host. And it's a pleasure for me today to be sitting here with Shawn and Kathie Brekke. I will stop short of saying you're legends in the area, but you've been around a long time. Like I said, you've been up and down the valley, the school system and everything. But Shawn and Kathie Brekke, friends of mine, I'd like to say. We've known each other for quite some time, but really kind of got to know each other as friends in the last couple of years. But today we want to focus a little bit on what we call Jasper's Jubilee Theater, or Jasper's Theater, and we'll talk a little bit about their personal history as well, too. But it's, again, just great to be here. We're sitting here in their home in South Moorhead, and there's a couple of guys mowing the lawn outside, so if you hear a little bit of background feedback, that's what's going on there.
Beautiful spring day.
It is. And so Jasper's Theater, sometimes called Jasper's Jubilee Theater, located in Park Rapids, Minnesota. And sometimes people, this podcast is designed to be more for people in the area. We call it, Red River Valley, but Jasper's Theaters is just really a hop and a skip out of the valley, about 85 miles away, too. So,
hour and a half.
Yeah, and I know so many people don't take buses out there, and so it's in my opinion, just very relevant, especially since the production. The season is starting here in about a month, too, so we're going to get some good information. But sometimes people might say, Jasper's Theater, why Jasper's Theater? And, of course, my standard response is, why not Jasper's Theater? In my opinion, I have not been to any shows out there. I have to fess up, but I've watched some videos, and I've talked to countless people that have been out there. But it appears to be some of the best and family-oriented entertainment in the area. And so that's really what appealed to me. I wanted to make sure that we get this information out to our 12 listeners, or however many. Well, we're actually in about 8 different countries. We've had people listen to, and many different cities and states too. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I like to think so. Anyway, let me just, I'm sitting here with Kathie. Kathie is what we call the director of the place. And Shawn, what would your title be? Gopher, lumper?
I call you the facilities manager.
Facilities manager is a good one, yes. If you break it, I'll fix it. Build sets, mow lawns, perform a little bit.
Paint.
He plays trumpet.
I play trumpet.
And he's a comedian.
Make coffee, yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know how to do that there.
Make coffee.
Yeah.
There's some things you don't want to learn how to do.
That's right.
Give me a little bit of... Whoops, sorry. Give me a little bit of background about Jasper's Theater. I understand it's 21st year now coming up, so it's in your family, Kathie.
Yes,
so
I'll give you the spiel on Jasper's. Yeah. My mother, she always said she was glad she got married because she was plumb full of kids. She taught us all how to play instruments and how to sing and do all the things, and we really all did perform together. We were like the Partridge Family with the ugly 70s, matching shirts and the whole thing. And then when we moved up north, we all sort of got married and did our things. And then she got cancer and wanted to get the family back together. And my sister Lynette who lived and still lives in Park Rapids, and her husband Don Gaida. They built like the Stav Church here. So they're log home builders.
Okay.
Lynette had a dream to really want to have a theater of her own.
Neat.
And so that kind of speeded up her dream. And my mom was able to perform the first entire season with 4 generations of her family.
Cool.
And then she passed away just a couple months after we closed the first season. And so it's been in her honor, really, that we've continued to perform for 21 years. And her sister was the best storyteller in the family. And she came on board that year and then birthed our comedian, Auntie Creamsagan, who everybody loves. And she's the wisecracking, Norwegian accented, lots of interesting marriage counseling advice or funny stories and tales, tall tales as we call them. So that's the first generation, and then it's my 6 siblings, of which still 21 years later, my brother Doug is involved at some level. My brother Wally is playing drums, and my sister Lynette owns it, and myself. So there's still 4 of us, pretty actively involved. My brother Doug's wife Melissa is at everything. So even though Doug can't be at everything, his wife is.
Right.
Then, of course, my son, Dan is our only son, so he's involved. That's that second generation. Lynette's daughter, Sarah, is a part of that generation. And then Sarah has 5 kids involved. And the drummer, my brother Wally, has some grandkids involved as well.
And Doug and Melissa's daughters also danced with us for a while.
Oh, they were there for about 10 years, but now they're running their own dance studio type things. And so, many of them have gone on to do music in different ways. But that's what's currently still available from the family.
Okay.
And then we've got some incredible friends that have stayed with us forever. My bass player, Kent Karsh, we call him Biff, been with us since the beginning. And we have Louis Rockin, who's out of Lake Park. He does Buddy Holly. Yep. And he was a part of, I think, the original Shadows band. Really great guy. And then Doug Keene has moved up from Minneapolis and lives about a mile from the theater. So he's there on saxophone and some acoustic guitar. And so, aside from the family members, we bring in some other people like Kat Perkins. And we bring in a guy named Doug Allen Nash out of Nashville. And he does Elvis, he does Johnny Cash, he does Neil Diamond. Okay. And then he's doing my iconic duets with me as well. Oh. So that's sort of what you get. Yeah.
So if everybody listening now has missed all of that, on your website there is a link that says the Johnson family tree, so you can click on that.
Yeah, there'll be no test on it. I promise.
Is it up to date? All right. Well, is Wes on there yet?
Wes is not. No, because we have a new grandbaby. So.
That definitely is a priority. So, but no, yes, people, the bulk of the people are from the Fargo-Moorhead Lakes area.
Yes,
so, except
absolutely.
For a few people you do bring in. So that's kind of cool. I guess, Howard, then, my next question was going to be, how did you get involved with Jasper's Theater? Well, you were born into it.
I was born into it, that's right.
Had no choice.
And, every year it started with, we just did one show and spread it out over the course of the summer. Yeah. And we all came with ideas. Okay. And then I would say one of the integral parts is, so my mom passes away after the first show. And we took kind of the best of the Johnson family that first year. Right. And Bill Sorensen is a cousin through marriage who was the host of the Medora musical. Wow. So he came out and did magic with us that first year for our opening. Long story short, Mom passes away. We need somebody to kind of come in and host. And Jack Sand comes up to me at church one Sunday and says, I'm retired from WDAY and I want to do something. Can I be involved? Well, that was a real positive turning point because we needed that patriarchal man that would get up and kind of be the glue that would tie all the things together. So for the first several years, Jack and I would write music, magic, and comedy shows. So my aunt would do more of the comedy, Jack would do magic and comedy, and then, I would figure out the music portion of it. And then a few years into it, I think we just started to do a few other shows, like our gospel show. Mm-hmm. Auntie Creamsagan, my aunt, the funny one, she would do some shows with Louis Ronkin, Buddy Holly. Okay. And some of these little one-off shows started to happen. And that were aside from the 4 generation, what we call our main stage show. Okay. And we have found that people just kept asking for more and more of those because it's unique entertainment.
It is.
They can drive right up to the door, drop people off. The bathrooms are within a few feet. It's easy to step down to their chair. There's no steps at all. They just walk down a little level. It's all a slope. We're all there as a family. We greet them. We get them off the bus. We bring them to their seats. And then we run around and open the curtain and perform for everybody.
Lights, camera, action.
That's exactly it. You know, our kids learn how to make change, how to shake a hand, how to, bring something to the table. They run the sound, they run the lights, they make the popcorn, and they clean up the little pink hankies at the end.
And they're cheap help.
That's right.
So did the theater start in its existing building right now?
It did.
I call it a barn, but
It did.
I think it says on the website it's kind of a barn tucked into the trees.
That's an interesting thing too. My brother-in-law took some of the trees from a storm, and then he took the railroad ties from the old Heartland Trail, the old railway.
Yeah.
Then he took the beams from the drive-in theater from Park Rapids. And then my sister and I went down to Waverly, and they were getting rid of their curtains, all the big velvety red curtains.
Yeah.
And we hauled those back on a flatbed trailer. And the seats came from Waverly and somewhere else, Hubert Humphrey High School. So we've got all recycled materials in this building that are very authentic looking and really cool.
Exactly, yeah. And again, I've not been there, but you've got great pictures, video on the website too, which for our listeners is the 3 W's, jasperstheater.com. There's some videos on there too of your upcoming year, 2025, and some of the performances you have. But you have, I see, according to the schedule, 9 different shows, and I'll call them themes because there's 9 themes, and some of the shows have more than one appearance, or whatever the right word is. So tell me a little bit about the shows. I've got what I see as some of my favorites. One thing I really like, to me, at my age, is the fact that they're 2:00 in the afternoon. So there's room for buses to get down there. They can unload people my age. And gone are the days when I would be, just thinking about going out around 10 p.m. and then, 2 p.m. show's done. Boom, get me back to
Well,
Fargo.
Park Rapids is beautiful. So people come up there and they either choose to go out for lunch.
That makes sense.
And then come over. They hit the downtown area, or they go to Dorset, which is lots of eating and shopping. Little town on the other side of us. And then, or else they come to the show. If they take off half a day of work or something, then they go out for dinner, but they can get home before the deer are out, as they say.
I hadn't thought about
That's
that.
what we say. Everybody gets home before the deer are out.
All right.
So, yeah.
Yep. And if somebody just drives down on their own, they can, like I say, meander, stop somewhere for dinner or something to eat.
And we're only 20 miles from Itasca.
Yeah.
The Heartland Trail is right there. There's just so much to do in Park Rapids. But you asked about the shows.
Yep.
So
Tell me about the shows.
we kind of mirror a little bit our June and September.
Yep.
So we start and end with our Hand-Clappin Gospel Show. The first show is pretty much sold out already.
That answered one of my questions. You're getting ahead of me.
There's just a few seats left, I think, on the main floor for that one. The next one, that's our first and last show is gospel. We like to give God the glory, kind of start and end our season that way.
Amen.
And then we have my son's band with his buddy from Nashville that comes up, and they are doing a tribute to Waylon Willie and the Boys.
Yep.
So it's real classic country. He plays fiddle,
Mm-hmm.
and they kind of talk through country songs and the songwriters and the people that kind of made country what it is today.
Yep.
Very interesting.
Some of the backstory, if you've gone to the Country Music Hall of Fame in Nashville, for instance, you can read so much of the backstory behind things. And these guys have so much knowledge that they talk about this as this is a listening crowd. When they, it's not necessarily the type of crowd that they the hooting and hollering in whatever venue. This is more of a concert style. They're not used to playing to this type of crowd, but at the same time, this crowd is terribly interested in the backstories, in a little bit of the historical, or this is where this song title came from, or whatever. And the guys just love talking about it.
And the audience loves seeing 30-something-year-olds tell them about the music they grew up on.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that was the best era kind of thing.
Yeah. Some of these guys that come, like you say, from Nashville are probably used to playing behind chicken wire.
Right.
Here they come to, Jasper's theater, and the people are actually listening and they're
That's right.
paying attention. So I bet there's a lot of maybe not so much in that country icon classics, but in the gospel hand-clapping show, audience participation must be
Oh yeah, I put
crazy.
the words up for I would say over 50% of it, but even when the words aren't up, people start singing.
Yeah.
But we go from the Gaithers to hand clapping,
Yep.
you know, like I Saw the Light. We do some good hymns, Be Thou My Vision, kind of the real standard type of hymns. And we don't do a lot of the newer stuff. I think the only one that we're doing is I don't even know. It's mostly older stuff
Right.
that people sing along with.
Exactly, and that's what people want to hear.
Yes, and then the third, so we have the gospel, then we're doing the Dan Brekke, Wailing Willing the Boys, then we're doing a crooner show, because of course I love jazz and big band.
Oh, yeah.
So we call it Crooners, Cool Cats and Big Bands, and I'm doing so it's Sinatra and Dean Martin and, you know, all the typical people you would think.
Mel Torme.
Yeah,
stuff
we're
like
giving
that.
my nephew, well, he'd be my great nephew because he's once removed already. He is 15 years old and loves all of them.
Okay.
So he's going to sing Volare and that type of thing. And then the band will do Sing, Sing, Sing and In the Mood. And then I do your, Etta James at Last, that kind of the female side of that.
Right.
And we feature the horns. So it's a really great swinging type of energetic show.
Before I forget, let me ask you, what is, I guess, about the average length of your presentation?
2 hours.
2 hours, okay.
Yeah.
Is there an intermission?
Yes. So most of the time people need to get there by quarter till because people are visiting. And,
Oh, yeah.
And then we go for an hour and then we take a break and it's as long as it takes to get people to the bathrooms.
Yeah.
So sometimes that's 10 minutes, sometimes it's 15, depends on. And then they're usually out of there by 4:10, somewhere in there.
Sometimes you have to tell people, okay, calm down, quiet down, we want to start again. No, too busy visiting. That's the way
It's just such a great vibe that way. And then our jukebox hits of the 50s, 60s, and 70s opens for July and August, and that's all 4 generations of the family. And that's literally, I looked up what songs were played the most on jukeboxes in those, and I go by 5 years at a time, and I just kind of grab 5 of the top hits. For example, did you know what the number 1 song ever played on a jukebox is?
I'm not even going to try to guess.
Crazy by Patsy Cline.
Okay.
Isn't that, I just
Crazy.
didn't, I thought it would be like Neil Diamond's Sweet Caroline or something like that.
Patsy Cline.
Patsy Cline is the number 1 song played on the jukebox. So that's that one. Then we're doing a Rockin' 50s show. That's Elvis, Buddy Holly, Little Johnny Cash. I'll do a little like the Shirelles, some of the 50s that way. The Big Bopper. Those sell out real fast. I think 2 of them are pretty sold. And then after that, Neil Diamond, Johnny Cash. And that's none of our family. I give everybody a week off except those of us that have to run the theater. And he comes in with his own band. And that's Doug Allen Nash. And so he does one half as Neil Diamond and one half as Johnny Cash. Then the next week, we do one more Rockin' 50s. And this is a new show for us. We're doing the guy that comes in, that Doug Allen Nash. He's been asking me for probably 3 years to do this show with him. And I said, I haven't sang a whole night of country in a lot of years. He says, it'd be great. Classic country and iconic duets. So it's not just that we're going to do a little... what's her name? No, You Don't Bring Me Flowers. It's Neil Diamond and
Barbara Streisand.
Barbara Streisand.
Right, yeah.
Conway Twitty and Loretta Lynn. It's a little bit of Lady Gaga and
Yeah, sure.
what's his name that just passed away?
Tony Bennett.
Tony Bennett. Thank you. That's what you're.
Little George Jones and Tammy also.
Tammy
too.
Wynette,
Yeah.
and then June and Johnny Cash.
Yeah, Dolly and Kenny.
That's a lot of Dolly and Kenny.
Yep.
They're not just like, it's like Kenny and Dottie West, Kenny
Yeah.
and Dolly Parton, Kenny and Kim Carnes. Kenny was the duet king.
That's what- okay.
And then,
You gotta feed the family,
right? So we kind of lined that one up where we'll do 2 or 3 from one of those duet type things. And then Dan's going to come out and do like a kickin' country song in between that has nothing to do with duets, but just he'll play the fiddle on something. He'll play something that's classic country that everybody knows, like Dumas Walker or what's his one that Wes likes, Chug-a-Lug, Roger Miller.
Yeah, that trailer for sale, right?
Yes. So Dan kind of does that lighthearted, fun country, and we do the classic duets.
his wide range of music just amazes me, and as does yours. But I know he's been to Nashville and tried to get some things going there. COVID kind of shot that down. I think, kind of shot that down. But when I see the Dan Brekke band playing somewhere, it goes all different directions. So his talents on the fiddle and with the guitar and vocals and things like that is just amazing.
Dan is, and it's not just because he's our son, but Shawn and I have just really been amazed at the versatility, the utility player that he is. Mm-hmm. And it's because he geeked out at a young age over all styles of music. Yeah. So when somebody says, describe Dan in music, when he was in kindergarten, I brought a full trap set to the kindergarten music day, and he played Elvis and sang Blue Suede Shoes on the drums and sang. So he was into Elvis, and then he got into his classic rock stage, and he ended up, playing the guitar. And one night he grabbed the harmonica. My mom had a steel guitar player that played with Patsy Cline, and we had his steel guitar, and he took it out one night and learned how to play steel guitar rag.
Just picked it up and learned how to play.
He just loves the whole concept of music, and he really loves good songwriting. Yeah. So he went down to Nashville, and he is when COVID changed that, he was also changed by Nashville. There, the riots that were down there, and it was time for him to raise a family and start some of that. So he had his 10 years of fun.
I can relate to that.
And he's happy to be home and playing for the people here that kind of know and love him again.
I saw him on the Prairie Public broadcast, and some people have dreams and aspirations of doing stadium rock, huge crowds, massive amount of crowds, but I don't see that. Just entertaining, but pleasing people, and maybe that's not the right word.
He really likes to connect.
There we go.
With his audience. He really does. And I have to attribute Jasper to a lot of his development. Okay. Why does he perform such a wide range? Jasper's performs a wide range of music, and I think that kind of expanded his interests. I also think as a musician, as an artist, he's kind of a savant that way. He's completely focused on music. That's his plan A, and he'll tell people he doesn't have a plan B. Married, I'm glad his wife has a real job. That's not
sounds like musicians.
That's right. He's got it. He's got the best of everything right now. But his talents are amazing, and what he can remember is he can remember lyrics from any song, and he can play guitar to it, or bass, or drums. There was a lot of. I think one of the best things that Nashville did for him was, to play in these bands night after night, 8-hour sessions, 12-hour sessions. Wow. They all learned how to cover for each other, to play all the different types of instruments, to learn so many songs. His musical chops, so to speak, are amazing. He's so unassuming, and he's so humble about it all. He never wants to talk about himself, but he absolutely loves what he does, and I really admire that in him.
Neat. And he's kind of going to be bringing the country, if you want to call it that. As I'm a musical dropout. I played in orchestra and band up until I was a junior in high school. Different time of my life, I just wasn't ready for it. And I regret it at times, but as soon as I hit my senior year, you didn't get more credits for it. So I just said, forget that. So I went and did, small engine repair, photography, things which did interest me. Mm-hmm. But right now, I do enjoy all genres of music. Of course, I like the classic rock of our era, the 70s and 80s. Mm-hmm. Jazz is probably my favorite, which I learned to appreciate when I lived out in Oregon, some of the bands there. I even like country now. My wife was raised in a small town in northwest North Dakota. So occasionally we'll bring up on the iPad, Spotify, we'll bring up, I call it the mellow country playlist. And we'll get guys like Merle Haggard, Jeannie C. Riley, George Strait, things like that. And I enjoy that too. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I see, Dan and doing all of that.
I have a funny story with Dan. He was down in Nashville, and he grew up on the stage at the theater. And then, of course, he left right out of high school and left with the Johnny Home Band.
Really?
And Johnny and I are, he gets down there and people would call a tune and Dan would be like, yeah, and he was barely 21 and he's in Nashville and they'd call a tune and be like, yeah, I know that song. And then he'd call me on the way home and say, Mom, did you know there's a bridge to that song? Because of course I write Jaspers with a lot of medleys.
Okay.
So he learned the first verse and chorus and that's all he thought the song had. And then he'd get down there and all of a sudden they were going off on some other part of the song and he's like, there's a bridge to that song.
You have to pay attention.
Oh, we were going through the show. So we got to the iconic duets. Then after that, we're doing, Dan comes back, does another one of the same shows that he did, the Waylon Willie. And then we're doing a different, I'm going to explain it this way. My grandfather taught us all about waltzes and polkas.
Sure. Good
And
for
we used to take our turn coming up from Minneapolis to go to Rolog because Grandpa was the guy at the Hit It All booth or whatever that station was there, playing all his homemade organs. And he'd hook him up to an Electrolux vacuum cleaner, and he would tune a steam whistle.
Wow.
And so I learned how to chord to all the Finnish, the German, the Norwegian, all these classic waltzes and polkas, and really didn't realize what an education I was getting in our heritage here. And I realized in 21 years, we had never done anything like that in that era or that style. So I wrote an entire show that has Leave It to Finnskogen and the Westphalia Waltz and the Halsa dem der Himmel, like the Homecoming Waltz. And then, so you do like a waltz and a polka, and then we're doing, Dixieland.
Nice.
So,
Good-
and
good
with
horns.
yes. So then we'll do Louis Armstrong kind of things with it. So it's the early heritage of American music.
Yeah.
And even though it comes from across other countries. So that's that. And then this is something new. Kat Perkins has been on The Voice and different things. And she was running around playing with Johnny Home this summer, or last summer, I think it was.
She's from North Dakota, right?
Yep.
Bismarck area.
She was also, I believe, in Medora.
Okay.
And so she and Dan connected with the Johnny Home Band last summer, and she grew up loving Hee-Haw. So she's put together kind of a modern twist that tributes Hee-Haw, and she calls it She-Haw. And the show has got comedy and some of that, and she's asked Dan to join her on his home stage, and they've put together this She-Haw thing.
That's cool.
And then we end with another gospel show. So that's the long version of our summer right there.
Didn't seem that long to me, but yeah, she was a semi-finalist, The Voice in 2013. I looked
Great
that up.
singer, and what a great personality.
Exactly. So that's cool. Do you have a favorite of all these shows? Do you have a favorite?
Me, well, I always like doing the family show because of the variety, and that's always great. If you ask as an audience member, I love Dan's show because he plays a lot of the classic country that I really enjoy. I'm not a huge country fan, but if I'm going to listen to country, it's going to be the classic country. I'm not real thrilled with the new stuff. That's
Not even country, but we'll digress. I don't want to digress.
Otherwise, and over the years, I have to say I've developed an affinity for Dixieland and never thought I would as a young trumpet player. And now I thoroughly enjoy playing it. So that's a fun show for me to play too.
The toe tapping old time jubilee.
Absolutely. So first show coming up on June 12. When do you need you must have to have rehearsals?
We've already rehearsed.
Oh my.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this year was kind of funny. We've done hard copies of everything, and at the same time, my band has been on an iPad for years.
Yeah.
So this year we decided, nope, everyone's going to use the iPad. So our rehearsal I bet I've spent more time getting everybody used to using an iPad than I have rehearsing them.
Sure.
But we spent a weekend as the female singers, and then I spent a better part of a weekend with the guys and the band.
So you're physically with them.
Physically with them.
Yes, but
rehearsing.
everybody's got an iPad. So
Yeah.
all right.
And then we record what we're doing.
Okay.
And then I have a Dropbox and a text string, and I send it all out, and then they have to figure it out. Like, I give them a chart,
Yeah.
but a lot of people want to change the chart so it works for them. So they have time to adjust. Like the comedy sketches, there's parts where they have to write in what props they need. So now they had time to do that, and then on the 17th, we'll get together both halves.
Right.
And that'll be the family show. We'll get that one figured out, the jukebox hits.
Yep.
And then we'll do that again in June. And then the other shows, the one-off shows we've done different times, they take one real long rehearsal. But a lot of those songs we've done for a lot of years. So we can have fun just playing them. We're not learning them.
As the saying goes, if you're making mistakes, as long as you don't look like you're making mistakes, nobody's going to know the difference.
We always say make musical mistakes.
Impromptu too. You're just winging it, as they say. Yeah. So that's cool. What's neat too, again, you talked earlier about all the volunteers that need to be there to clean that place. I've seen posts on social media that, this is a weekend, everybody's coming down, bring your gloves and bring your dustpans and everything like that. So it's a whole family thing.
I have to tell you, that has been the biggest blessing to us as a family and a cast is Nancy and Neil Jordheim kind of started the train on that one. Is they retired from Fargo Moorhead and have a place up on the same river by us, and they needed something to do. She retired, and I said, well, why don't you come and run sound for me? And she did. And she just invested in our kids up there that weren't going to be on the stage, that were going to run the lights and the PowerPoint. And she was the mother that kind of took care of those kids and showed the value of what they do, even if they're not on stage. And Neil became the popcorn king. And he's even got the socks that say that. And then, they start volunteering, and then they bring in the Smiths, and they'd retired from NDSU teaching there. And so now I've got that couple. And then my daughter-in-law's parents, they just fell in love with Jasper. So they're there. And these volunteers come and help me clean it and garden it. And I think the biggest thing that they do is they make our people that come off that bus or that are sitting there just feel like they're really good at seeing them, listening to them, wanting to know their story.
Yeah.
And that's all a part of this. And they get that vision. They don't have to be performers to be able to ask somebody, well, what did you do in your life? And Bruce Renshaw brings a bunch of old cars from Terry Setter's, and they gather around and talk about when they had that car. And at the end of the family show, we honor our veterans. That's our theme on that. Always we end with that and turn it back to our veterans. And
so there's so many things going on, not just your 2-hour performance.
Right.
And it's
a vibe, it's a culture, it's an experience. It's come sit in the pines, get a wood tick on you. No, I'm kidding. And get some good popcorn and meet a new friend.
Right.
And it's just a really, it's morphed into something more than we could have ever hoped for.
So what the future holds for Jasper is it's all in God's hands, of course. We don't know, but it's just going to continue on. I'd like to think.
Shawn's going to start playing the flute.
That's not going to happen.
And then there's Wes too. No, Wes.
That's right.
Wes is he playing an instrument? Is he about 6 months now? 6 months?
4.
4 months old?
4 months.
So he's probably working on something.
He's cooing in tune.
There we go. Well, again, one just last time about Jasper's Theater. Again, that website, jasperstheater.com. I encourage you to take a look at that. There's some great ticket information. The tickets are very reasonably priced. There's directions to get there. There's also about a 5-minute YouTube link that will kind of give you a little bit of a preview of the entertainment coming up this summer. But let's turn a little bit to the personal side of you, to the both of you. I know Shawn comes from Oregon because I went to college in Oregon, and you're from Troutdale, I believe.
Troutdale,
is that right? Yeah,
yes.
just down the gorge from where I went to college, and so. That's about the end of that connection, but I know the area. So tell me how you guys got together. Did you come here? Were you there? If you don't mind my asking, and just tell me what we need to know about the Brekkes that people don't already know.
I was born and raised in Oregon, and when I went to college at the University of Oregon, can I tell the story how we met?
I think so. I don't know why not.
I believe we can.
Kathie came out on exchange from Minnesota State University Moorhead. We're used to saying Moorhead State.
MSU.
So she came out on exchange to the University of Oregon, and she met my girlfriend.
I see what's going on. That's what you have to ask.
And so my girlfriend broke up with me after a while, but the best thing that my girlfriend did was introduce me to Kathie at that point. So when I came out to Minnesota on exchange the next year, of course, I came out here to be on exchange, not to necessarily be with somebody else. But
I told them the weather would be great. Come on out.
Pick that specific spot. where
that's
Kathie
right.
is.
That's right. My dad's family's from the Duluth area, so it was kind of fun to come out and experience a Minnesota winter, which is something I'd never felt before in my life. And see my dad's family and get to know Kathie and make some really good friends out here too. So I ended up coming back and doing my master's degree at Morehead State. But that's how Kathie and I met out there. It was just kind of by happenstance and the greatest gift my girlfriend ever gave to me.
I bet a lot of people have some of those stories that they could tell that are similar to that. Some they may not want to share, but that's a good one. I like that. So we talked about Dan, and of course Wes is your new grandson. So that's keeping you really busy. But tell me about all of your. I mean, we could go on for a long time talking about your other musical ventures. I enjoy listening to your band when you're out at Urban 42. Is that what it's Urban
Yeah,
42
Urban
out
42.
there? Because again, that's my first enjoyment, or my first love is kind of the traditional four-piece jazz band, stuff like that. I do enjoy that. You always have themes. You've got a Mardi Gras theme sometimes, and there's a Natalie Cole night and 70s night. You invite people to come up. Hopefully you know they're coming up, but I know there was a young lady, she sang her dad plays with your band. Her name slips my mind.
Russ Peterson's daughter Stella came out that
Yeah.
night. Yeah.
I was there that night. So you there again. It's not community audience participation. There's people dancing out there too. Professional dancers too. I mean,
That's really good.
those guys are good. They probably follow you along. But other things that you do. I mean, you've been vacationing in Florida. You play down there, and maybe in Arizona too. But give me a little feedback, a little idea on other musical ventures. You came to the Morehead school system, teaching and stuff like that. So how about a little bit of that background, if you don't mind?
Well, yeah, aside from the family stuff in Park Rapids, I do have the gospel band. We called ourselves the Apostles.
Right on.
And we don't do a whole lot with them because the theater keeps us pretty busy in the summers, but we do lead some worship out at Cormorant, their outdoor service, and we do Shoreham.
Did you play down at Wolverton not too long ago?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we do go out and do gospel things with my band. So then that's still fun. And then the 42nd Street Jazz Band started because Adele Leslie she and her husband Bob had started the Ramada, and they wanted to start a jazz night. And so I named the band after 42nd Street, which is what the then Ramada was built on. And it is the longest running jazz night in Fargo-Moorhead's history. We've been going ever since the hotel opened, basically. We've gone, we have 3 nights of entertainment that I book in there. And I play pretty much every Thursday with the band. And the band is, my jazz band is Shawn and I and Biff, the bass player, and Matt Tingham.
Yeah.
And then the other player rotates in or out, or depending on what we're playing, if I need a 6-piece or a 5-piece or a 4-piece. And Russ Peterson is the other constant.
Yeah.
But he has symphony like one Thursday a month, so then it'll be either Steve Wallivand or Eric Martins.
Yeah.
Steve Wallivand plays trombone or Eric Martins plays guitar.
Yeah, I've listened to Eric when he first came here. He was just
He's an
amazing
amazing
guitar
player.
Yeah, incredible.
And then we do, like you said, we try to do themes or feature one of the players in the band or bring up students from the area or guests that are just in the audience. It's planned, it's organized, but then there's the last 15, 20 minutes, I don't always know what's going to happen. But that's okay. My band just kind of rolls with me on things. And then the other thing that band does quite a bit of, like we had Make-A-Wish this weekend. So we played for the galas, a lot of galas, a lot of private parties, things that I think we're sort of like a classy but fun jazz band. We're not just high test jazz, that we're more approachable for every type of listener.
Yeah. And my opinion is that it's nothing personal against DJs, but it's live music. It's real people playing it that are have an incredible libraries. So if you ask to play something, chances are you'll say, "We got it. We'll know it." Instead of like, "Don't do that one. What else do you want?" Don't do that.
All of us have played in rock bands
and
country bands and grown up doing so many different styles. So we can do a 70s night, we could do a 60s night, we could do a country night if we wanted to, but we have, I bring other bands into the Delta to kind of take care of that need. As far as teaching goes, Shawn and I have panned the whole thing of Highway 10. You had, what's your teaching?
I was in Lake Park, Audubon for 1 year as a sub, and then I went to Dilworth, Linden, Felton for 4 years, Detroit Lakes for a couple of years, and then finally moved to Fargo and spent my last 23 years teaching at Ben Franklin Middle School.
That's right. So these smaller schools, you got your fair share of learning how to take tickets at basketball games, and
He was the pep band director, so
Oh,
he
yeah,
was busy.
yeah. You're busy.
We did a lot of that.
there's
Yeah.
nothing like having a band at a basketball game.
Oh, it's
You
the
know?
best.
It's just great.
It's the
yeah.
best.
And the kids are just getting into it and having a great time.
Yeah.
My wife loves marching bands. when we're watching college football,
Mhm.
they give you like 30 seconds of a marching band and then they cut away. It's like, come on, you got to find them on YouTube. Marching bands, awesome.
Well, that's where we met.
That's right.
Actually, when Kathie came out, she was on the flag team, and I was playing trumpet in the band, and the captain of the flag team happened to be my girlfriend. So that
She comes back.
That's
She
how
surfaces again.
yeah, yeah,
We met and we were at the 49ers game,
yes.
and we were playing on that field in San Francisco.
Joe Montana and John Elway on the same field. We actually got to watch that game.
It was pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, you just had a crush on the quarterbacks, but
Well, they're probably saying
It was
we
a
were in the
pretty good
same
game.
stadium as Shawn and Kathie Brekke.
that's it. That's what they were saying. And the Broncos won, which was a very good thing.
Plus, right on.
My teaching was not as congruent. I was kind of all I like to build and move on. I've been more that kind of a person.
Mhm.
So I did a few years at Robert Asp. Well, actually, right out of college, I was at MSUM doing stuff right away, and then I went to Robert Asp in Moorhead, and then I taught jazz band at Park Christian for a year, and I went to Detroit Lakes for a year.
Yeah.
Oh, Yulin Hitterdal was my first. After Moorhead, I went out to Yulin Hitterdal for a couple of years. Then I went to DL with him for 1 year. But then they called me and wanted me to teach piano at MSUM.
Okay.
So then I didn't teach, and I went to MSUM, and I had the best gig. It was jazz piano and class piano at MSU, plus their vocal jazz ensemble, and then at Concordia, I developed their vocal jazz program.
At Concordia.
Up to three. So I had 3 vocal jazz groups at Concordia 1 year, and I had the one at Snowfire, I think it was called, at MSUM, plus the class piano. So between the 2 colleges, I was full time. It was just great. And then I got offered the position to go into the high school at Moore High,
Okay.
and Dan was coming into the school, and I thought, well, that would be fun. So I went and had the time of my life with Dan and all his buddies we did all the trips and tours. And so I did that until a year ago, 2 years ago, I guess. And honestly, it was a ton of fun,
Mhm.
but I could not keep up my teaching, my performing in Jasper's.
Right.
Something had to go. I'm not 21 anymore. And it was just that it was a good time. The new building, pass it on to somebody else.
Right.
So that's I didn't leave, because I hated kids or teaching. It was just time to be done.
Can
I
always-
still have an office at MCUM for some jazz piano lessons and things when needed.
The cliche is true. I mean, you can only spin so many plates. Something's going to fall. And
Well,
so,
I wanted to leave when I still liked it.
yeah, that's a good way of doing it. Yeah. Well, as we wind down here, I had to do a little bit of research on some quotes that kind of refer to music, because your music is your life. The friends that you have more than likely made, I'm just assuming, that you've made over these years are more than just like sports team friends. Yeah, there are some that are good. I have some friends in our profession that I can go back quite a long ways, but you guys in the music industry, if you want to call it that, just have to have hundreds, if not more, that you could just get on the phone and say, hey, I'm going to be in Tempe, Arizona, and let's get together and make some music or something like that too. I know
There's some of that. Harley Sommerfeld, who was my saxophone player forever,
Yeah.
he retired and moved to Florida. So we go down and play with him. And also Dennis Conley is down there. He's a saxophone player out of Bismarck.
Yeah.
So there is that.
Yep.
But I think in life you really have only a few really close people. And our band has been, the jazz community is very close here.
Yeah.
And worship. The worship leading part was I was at Triumph for 20 years too.
That's right.
we did that. And so those friends are still real tight for us. So yeah, you have a few friends. Well, you're a friend. How many funerals have you and I done together?
Oh, put me on the spot. Dozens,
Dozens.
Yeah.
I've known you a long time.
Yeah.
A long time.
Yeah. Well, the one quote that comes to me, old quote and a new quote, but music washes away from the soul the dust of everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's Berthold Auerbach. Maybe his brother coached the Celtics. I'm not sure. To me, that's what music does. I like music without lyrics, just because I can just park my mind and just enjoy the music. And whatever I'm doing, whether it's just reading a book or doing the dishes or cooking, things like that, just to me, it just, you don't forget about the day, but it just kind of it's very soothing, of course. Prince, we all know Prince, of course, his quote was, "Music is healing. Music holds things together." And that's absolutely true. Music is so very important.
Probably the biggest compliment we've ever been given at Jasper's is people come and so many of them are hurting, that demographic. Okay. They've got cancer, there's just a lot of medical. And the best thing anybody ever said is, for 2 hours, I forgot to hurt.
Right on.
And if you can give that gift through music, what better thing can you do with your 2 hours?
Yep. That's a great point and a great way to wind up on. Thank you. One last time, let me just say, Jasper's Theater, that's why we initially sat down. Just go to jasperstheater.com. It's 1 mile east of Park Rapids. I always have to point out, I looked on the internet, you guys have 53 Google reviews and a 4.9 a review rate. So that's incredibly good. So, but thank you for your time inviting me into your home. The lawn mowing is done outside, so that's kind of finally quieted down a little bit. And you're in the process of moving, so we're not a lot of furniture around here, so we're a little bit echoey. But anything I'm forgetting that you'd like to throw on there?
It's good to visit with you. We've had a lot of good memories with you, and thanks for highlighting Jasper's. It's a good place. We've enjoyed it, and it's something that we really value in our life. So.
Great. Well, thank you, folks, for listening, and make a special effort to get down to Jasper's, and there's plenty to do while you're on the way and while you're down. So have a great day, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Tom.
You have been listening to More Than a Funeral, Voices of the Red River Valley. And I have been your host, Tom Pence, and I'm one of the funeral directors at Korsmo Funeral and Cremation Service here in Moorhead, Minnesota. The word service has been an intentional part of our name for over 66 years, and we pride ourselves on attention to detail and personal service. Personally, my responsibilities revolve around the advanced planning aspect of our profession, and I enjoy visiting with people as we discuss the many possibilities of a memorable celebration service that will eventually honor a life according to their wishes. And from a practical standpoint, which is getting so very important these days, I help families plan ahead so that the family left behind will not be burdened with a large financial responsibility, therefore allowing them to spend time with their family, remembering their loved one, not having to worry about how to handle the expenses. Asset protection is also a very real issue these days, as many care facilities can cost several $1,000s a month, depending upon the level of care. Korsmo can provide simple and effective ways of protecting those assets, and I welcome the opportunity to visit with you about that. If you enjoyed this podcast and found some value in it, we greatly appreciate your sharing with a friend. And if you have a moment, text somebody right now. Encourage them to give a listen and perhaps follow the podcast personally. We anticipate publishing a new episode on the first day of each month, so check back for interesting guests and topics. And of course, we also welcome your suggestions for future guests and topics of interest as well. So thank you for listening. And if you want more information and actually want some free estimates or just have questions, contact any of the directors at Korsmo Funeral and Cremation Service. Our phone number is 218-233-1533, and our web address is korsmofuneralservice.com. Thanks again for listening, and from all of us at Korsmo, have a great day.